Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son sit down and talk about things from fantasy books. I'm the son, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for being with us for what would be one of our special episodes, not just because it's a midweek special, but because it's a rounded number. 30!
Whoa!
This makes 30 episodes.
We've done 30 already?
We have. Wow. We haven't been doing this 6 months. I mean, technically, this is our 6th month. We started in December of 2020, and now it is May 1st of 2021.
Wow.
But we started mid-December. So we're not quite 6 months, but we're almost
still,
there.
Yeah, I don't often think about how long we have been doing this now, but it is starting to get up there.
Yeah, it is. Wow, 30. So, yay! Celebration of 30. There you go. And we have a midweek special for you today here. We love our midweek specials. Warning here, we don't necessarily stay with spoiler light when we do midweek specials. Now, we're not planning to totally destroy your possibilities today.
I will do my best to not ruin everything, as I do quite enjoy what we will be talking about.
Right.
Today.
I assume if you're listening to this, you already saw the title. We're talking about the magic system of Mistborn today.
Or I guess magic systems, plural.
Oh, not really. It's one comprehensive... Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, so we'll talk about that. But yes, we're diving into Mistborn today, and if you have not read it yet, we're going to pique your interest with what we share, but it's going to be stuff that you would learn when you read it. So there's a little spoilage, but we're going to totally try not to give the big reveals away in any way, shape, or form. Before we actually talk about that content...
Okay.
How you doing, Zach?
I'm okay. I mean, still about the same as I was in the last episode.
As you know, many times with these midweek specials, we record them right after we've done a regular episode. So I'm still drinking the same Pinot Grigio you might have heard in the last episode, although I did refill.
And I'm still not drinking.
Because he's still recovering from a hangover. But he is doing great.
I'm here. I'm ready. Let's do it.
So... Rate a Magic System. This is a great series we came up with.
I've enjoyed doing it so far.
It was Zach's idea, and I love it.
I'll be excited when we've done like 6 of these and we can actually look at them and compare what's a better magic system arbitrarily based on our loose opinions.
So what have we done so far, Zach?
We've done the Wheel of Time and channeling within there. We've done the Shannara Chronicles and going through the variety of stuff. I'm firmly aware that that's probably not what the whole series is actually called, but I refer to it that way because the show was called that and it's easier.
Which is a complete insult, but that's okay.
But it's easier to talk about the series that way.
And this time...
we're doing Mistborn.
That's right.
Specifically, we are just going to do from the first trilogy, the first era.
The first era. There are 3 books in the first era of Mistborn. And then Brandon Sanderson, the author, came out with another series set 300 years further into the future that he has written 3 books? 3 books so far. There's a 4th one soon to publish. I've seen different...
I could be wrong about that. I have not read those yet.
I have. I'm pretty sure there's only 3 so far. But I think there's going to be 5 all total, actually. The next book, depending on who you listen to, is going to come out later this year, 2021. Or it's not coming till 2022. Originally, he'd said 2022, but I've heard rumors it may be getting fast-tracked, and he may have it out sooner.
Either way, it's potentially exciting.
That's right. But we're not going to talk about what we learn about magic systems of Mistborn in Era 2.
See, I actually started reading Mistborn after we started the podcast. And I've read through the first trilogy at this point. Finished it a while back. I've been reading some other things since.
And he loved it.
I did. It got a high place on my list of just books that I like.
He loved it so much that he infected his girlfriend.
Yeah, I referred her to read these. And as of today, she has picked up the copy of the first book and is... like a quarter of the way in.
And texting you, what does this mean? And, how do I pronounce this? And that was funny. It's like, how do you pronounce this? Yeah, that's the game of Fantasyland.
Because she's not a huge fantasy reader, but...
she will be.
Knows that I am, so she's willing to get into it, and Mistborn's a good place to start.
And I think your mother is upstairs reading Mistborn as well now.
Well, we kind of gave her a little bit of a hard time because I said, my girlfriend started it. You've had it on your phone for weeks.
That's right. You may remember in a previous episode, I pointed out, yay, I finally got her to start reading. And she read the prologue and didn't go any farther. And
then
started reading other books. Like, are you kidding? Come on. But just the prologue isn't enough to get you hooked. So I think she's reading more now. But we'll check after the episode. Yes, indeed. So, to get us started talking about Mistborn's magic system, I'm going to lay out a little bit of background, and then I'm going to turn it over to Zach, because he has read this more recently than I have, and he's going to kind of take charge for most of this episode.
But my dad's read more of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere.
I have.
And therefore can give us a little better context.
Yep. But before I give that context, let's just identify how we're going to score this. Just like we've scored other magic systems, this is going to be a 30-point total that can be earned in 6 different areas: consistency of definition, clarity, power, impact, practical value, and means of usage. And we'll better define those when we get to the rating part. But we always come up with a particular way to rate them. You know, what are they getting for these? It's not just numbers. We had, of course, for the Shannara series, Elf Stones. And for the Wheel of Time series, we had Fat Man Buddhas. Fat Man Warrior Buddhas.
There you go. You got there.
This time, what have we decided? What's appropriate for Mistborn, Zach?
Well, we threw a couple things out there. We were thinking. I tried to go really specific with it because I just read it, naming different things. And, well, we just realized there's something used so commonly that it's forgotten about half the time. But it is so important, and that's coins.
Just simple
coins. You could call them a clip, a boxing, a whatever, but they're just coins.
So we will be rating up to 30 coins for this magic system. So, Mistborn is part of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. Zach had already mentioned Cosmere a few moments ago. The Cosmere is the universe in which Brandon Sanderson is placing many of his various fantasy series, which are including crossover characters as he gets more into it, which I'm just loving. I've read everything current in his Cosmere. So that includes Mistborn, Elantris, Warbreaker, White Sand, the Stormlight Archive. These are all taking place on different planets, different systems of the Cosmere.
This is why I say it counts as sci-fi.
And I think a little bit, but not as much as Dune. Some postulate that the magic we see in each of these fantasy series, these different works that Sanderson has written, is essentially the same magic, but it's manifesting in different ways according to the rules of the particular planets. That said, within each planet, the rules of the magic are firm. It's hard magic, and the rules are always followed.
And if you think they aren't, it's because we didn't know that was what the rule was.
That's right. Sometimes the rule is better learned, better clarified as you go forward, but the rule was always the rule. Sanderson knew the rule. You as a reader just didn't know it yet.
Yep.
The magic of Mistborn, it's taking place on the world Scadrial, and it is a magic of metals. Specifically, people are able to utilize metal internally, or sometimes externally, to give themselves special powers. And those powers are tied to the specific types of metals. There are 3 categories of this metal magic.
And this is where I go, really, there's 3 magic systems. They all tie into this idea of metal magic, but they have their own separate rules that are governing them.
The systems are called Allomancy, Feruchemy, and Hemalurgy. So, Zach, let's break these down.
So the first one we're going to dive into is also going to be the one we will dive deepest, and that's Allomancy.
Absolutely.
Allomancy is the most prominent of these metal magics. It is the most seen and used. There are the most people alive in our world at this moment, when you start the series, that use this as opposed to the other 2.
At least as far as we know.
As far as we know. Now, people who use Allomancy are known as Allomancers, and they basically ingest metals and then burn them inside of them.
So ingest, they swallow the metal.
They either drink a vial that has little metal flakes in it, or they can straight up just put metal in their mouth and swallow like a pill.
Pop that coin right down the throat.
Yeah, it's intense, but it's a thing. There are a couple of benefits that come from all of these different things. However, before we get into the actual metals that we use, it's important to make the distinction that don't burn metals that aren't mentioned.
Now, you just said burn. You hadn't mentioned burn
I
yet.
did.
You did?
Yeah, they ingest them and burn them inside them.
Well, would you explain burning a little better?
It's like burning food calories. You ingest something and then are able to access the energy and power stored within through a biological process inside yourself.
A significant difference, however, is there is a mental piece to it.
You have to choose to burn it.
Right, because I swallow a hot dog, my body is breaking that sucker down. There's no mental part to this. But in Mistborn, I swallow a little bit of tin. It just sits there until I decide to burn it, which is consuming some of the tin, and I can decide how fast to burn it.
To within reason.
Yes.
You can choose to basically start burning it, leave it burning, turn it off from burning, or while it's burning, push it harder. It's called flaring the metal. There's not really that much distinction between a flare versus another flare. Flaring is flaring. You're not going to give it a half flare. But you can, but it's not a massive distinction.
If I've swallowed 5 grams of tin, now they don't use grams in the world, but I'm just going to go with grams here, okay? If I swallowed 5 grams of tin, I have a limited amount of tin I may now consume.
And when you run out of being able to burn that much,
the benefits, the magic benefits, just turn off like a light switch. So if I want it to last longer, I will burn it slowly, but I don't get as much magical benefit burning slow. If I'm burning faster, it's because I'm using it up faster. It also means I'm amping up the power.
Absolutely. In allomancy, the strength of what you're actually doing comes from the metal itself, the burning of this metal.
Yeah, not the person.
No.
It's from the metal.
And so you can have a scrawny little nothing bench pressing a car, potentially. Now, that might be a slight exaggeration at times, but the point is, you don't have to look like you can do what the metal magic allows you to do.
That's right.
Now,
there are 2 different types of people.
Yes, there are a couple of different terms that are out here, and the first one is the titular term for the series, and that's Mistborn.
You'd say that's the first one? I'd say that's the second one.
No, I'd say that's the first one I'm going to mention. I'm not saying what it is.
Okay.
You said you can let me
You're
take
driving.
care of this.
You're
Let me
driving.
Drive. Get your backseat podcasting out of here. It's the name of the book. I'm going to mention it. So, Mistborn have access to burning all of the metals that are good for burning. They still suffer from the negative effects if they try to burn something that they shouldn't, which can...
What does that mean?
Well, I was going to tell you before you interrupted me last time.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us now.
You burn something that you're not supposed to, and you can get dizzy, disoriented, really sick, and possibly just flat die.
Now, what do you mean something you're not supposed to?
There are a certain amount of metals that you can burn and burn successfully, and they give effects. They need to be specific ratios, not in relation to each other, but rather some are straight elemental metals and some are alloys.
Yeah, the straight elemental metals, there's no ratio. It's just that purity.
But when it is an alloy, it needs to be at least close enough to an exact makeup of the different types of metals that make the alloy. And if you're off by enough, it can still kill you.
What's an alloy? Not everybody understands metal.
An alloy is loosely metal that gets smashed together through physical or chemical processes to create a new metal.
Like, name one. An alloy would be?
An alloy would be pewter, for example.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure, because they're in pairs here. One and its alloy. Iron and its alloy steel. Tin and its alloy pewter.
Oh, okay. Well, I know bronze was the one I was thinking of. Bronze
Copper
is
and its
definitely
alloy,
an alloy.
bronze.
Yeah.
So they're paired in this way.
Ah. Okay, so if it's an alloy, it has to have been done right.
If it's done wrong, you're in trouble.
You'll get sick. You might even die.
Partially then depends on how healthy are you.
Yep. So Mistborns, they can use all the
Mistborn
metals.
can use all the metals that are on access to them. However, some people in this world are born not able to do that. In fact, most can't.
Now, most people can't do any at all.
Yeah, most people can't do anything. Some can do some things, And then very rare people can do everything. And when I say some can do some things, that is to say, most of the people who have access to this magic in this world only have access to one metal.
Yes.
They are called a misting.
Misting.
A misting. But as opposed to a Mistborn, a misting.
I'm just giving you crap on that one.
You're just giving me crap all night. It's fine. But they have access to only one of those metals. So what metal they have access to largely decides how useful they are in that field.
They even get special names then, based on what thing they can do.
Colloquial terms to refer to people who have certain abilities, so that you can just refer to them individually, and we'll reach those with each metal that we describe.
We will.
Now, I say each metal. There are known 16 allomantic metals. That being said, at the time that you finish the first 3 books, you don't know what some of those are.
Correct.
We will go through 12 of those metals, and a few metals that are not counted as allomantic metals, but do have special magical properties, and through much of the series, you think are allomantic metals.
Yes. There are a few last ones, if you were doing math, there were 4 more, that you'll learn about when you move into the next era. But we're not going to comment on them now.
Me, with my curiosity, I've seen them even though I haven't read the books yet, but I don't quite know how they actually will get applied.
Yeah, if you are faithful listeners of our podcast, you know Zach has the weird quirk that he'll read the end of a book before he reads it.
I don't usually read the end of the book. I just look at things.
He finds out what happens before he bothers to decide if it's worth his time.
Kind of. A little bit.
That drives me nuts. I find out, do other people recommend the book? See, that's what works for me.
I don't like reading a book by its cover. I like reading a book by its summary.
Okay, 16. We're going to talk about 12.
Yes.
Got it.
Now, these metals, they come in a couple different groups and then pairings within those groups.
Did you mean couple? I'm backseat driving again.
Oh, when I say couple, I'm just meaning a group. I'm not being specific at 2. I'm not my dad.
There are 4 groupings that the metals come in.
And each of those 4 groupings have 2 base metals and their corresponding alloys. Therefore, you get 4 times 4 equals 16. And that's partially how we do know how many there are, even when they haven't been discovered at the point that we will be talking here.
So you talked about these pairings. They have to do with 2 paired effects.
Mm-hmm. And this is often called pushing or pulling. And there are largely things that are creating external effects, internal effects, pushing, pulls, different enhancements to yourself or the world. You largely can separate all of the metals into 2 categories. One that affects your environment and one that affects you within your environment.
Yep. And in what happens, the physical reaction, there's a physical reaction for some of these, there's a mental reaction for some of these, but they're all having impact on the world in some way.
And it is important to note that that impact on the world might be the impact on your experience of the world.
Yes.
Beyond just actually impacting what other people experience.
So, allomancy, let's start out, talk about the basic metals first.
Okay, so these 8 basic metals will have some physical ones and some mental ones.
Yep.
The first pairing is steel and iron.
So steel.
Now, steel is the alloy and iron's the metal. Steel allows, when you burn it, for someone to push on other nearby metals. People who can do this are commonly called coin shots, because something that they commonly can do, especially in a military-like action, is to throw out a couple of coins and then push it away from their bodies.
Turns it into like a bullet.
Now, notably, this is different than, say, Magneto just controlling metal, as you have to be a little careful with how exactly you do this. You can only push things that are lighter than you. If you try to push something that is heavier than you will get pushed back.
And this is a smart way that talented coin shots can burn steel, because they can literally propel themselves with the use of steel by even with a coin. Okay, normally a coin, you push on it by burning steel and it goes flying away from you. But what if you have it on the ground
and you
push down against it?
The coin goes, but the coin doesn't have anywhere to go.
That's right. There's resistance. It can't go anywhere. Therefore, this
go
follows Isaac Newton's rules of force. It pushes you back. So, yep, you will fly up into the air.
And if you're not careful, you'll go splat.
You do have to pay attention. And in the books, again, we're not spoiling, but there are some comical experiences as people learn how to do this.
A little bit. Now, it's generally also kind of assumed here, and this is where we first kind of learned this, that a coin shot can't affect metals that are in someone else. This is very important for this series.
It is.
Because everyone's ingesting metals. You've got a bunch of metals in your stomach. If a coin shot could just push it, then they could just walk up to you, push that metal, and suddenly you don't have a stomach.
Yeah, that would totally... Yeah, this is where Brandon Sanderson made sure this wasn't overpowered.
Yeah, it's not just murdering.
There are rules.
All the time. Now, there may be exceptions to that. However, commonly, you cannot affect metal in someone else's body.
Yep. So what about the partner with steel?
Its pull to its push is iron. And so iron works basically the same way that steel does, affecting other metals out in the world, except instead of pushing them away from your body, you pull them towards your body. Both of these are direct pulls or pushes, not something you steer around, but you can just lurch something towards you. Therefore, the nickname that people who use this are given is a lurcher.
I find that humorous. You say you can just lurch toward... That's not what usually people who pull things towards them, they say, I'm lurching you.
And yet it is, because it's a sudden whoom, not a light, oh, come towards me. I have the force, Luke. No.
So a misting whose metal is iron can pull metallic things toward them.
Yes.
But
that's
a
potentially
Mistborn,
dangerous.
A Mistborn can do multiple ones. Now, something you didn't mention earlier, I'm going to mention now.
Okay.
If somebody can use more than one metal, they can always use all the metals. That's how Mistborn works.
Yes.
So you're either a Mistborn, you're either a Misting when you only can use one metal,
or you
can
are
use them
a Mistborn,
all.
and you can use them all.
So just imagine if you can use them all as a Mistborn, and you can use steel and iron, that means you can both push and pull metals. And if you're gifted with that, wow, that opens up so many things.
Absolutely. You can play the best game of catch with yourself.
Yes, you can, but never have to catch.
Just shoot something way out there, bring it
And
all
then
the way
suck
back,
it back, and right before you have to
back
catch,
out,
shoot it back out there again.
You don't
That's
even
right.
have to use your hands.
Remember the paddle ball thing? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, you never even have to hit it. You just kind of keep twitching. Send it mentally.
And notably, we often think...
I tried to say mentally, it came out metally. That is so appropriate.
We often think of magics and things being something crazy hand gestures or whatever, and I mean, it's addressed in the world that sometimes as people learn, they think that they have to like put their hand out to push something, and no,
it's all mental.
It's what's going on within the body and the power of the metal, not you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got steel, we got iron.
Those both work normal. Next are still physical metals, but rather than affecting the outside world, are within your body. The first of these is tin. Now,
tin's cool.
Tin is cool. Tin enhances your abilities, specifically your 5 senses.
But you have to pick one. You don't enhance all 5 at the same time.
No.
You decide which one. But you can do any of them.
That is incorrect.
Really?
Yep. You enhance all of them at the same time.
You sure?
Yep.
Just because my notes say that it enhances all 5.
I am sure, because as it's described they're doing, they often use it as a way to see better or all these things, but they also comment about how they can literally feel the ground under their feet differently.
Okay.
Or if they get hit with something, it hurts more.
Again, listeners, defer to Zach. He's read this more recently.
And so all of your senses get put extremely higher. And
I sense there could be a drawback with that.
There is. In fact, we actually see an example within the series that, that is an exception to a lot of these things that I'll talk about at the end of Allomancy a little bit more. But tin eyes, as they're called, can see better, hear better, feel things better, taste better, smell better. And they also then, therefore, have the drawbacks of more intense stimulation. They can be blinded easier, scared by loud noises that deafen them, and you really have to try and filter through that. As one of our main Tin Eyes in the series says, it's not about what you can see, it's about what you can make yourself tune out.
That would be spook.
Yes.
You'll learn spook if you read it.
The other physical metal that we haven't talked about yet is pewter. Pewter is one of my favorites because it's just so badass.
We didn't say what we call someone who uses tin.
Yes, a tin eye.
Okay.
I did say it.
Oh, well, I missed it. What about someone who uses pewter?
Pewter, they're often called pewter arms. However, they're not actually called that. That's the technical name for them. No one calls them that.
What they're called is awesome.
They're called thugs.
Because
pewter enhances your physical capabilities largely.
you become a brute.
Your strength, your speed, your agility, your balance is greatly enhanced. And so you become
Superman.
You become a massive weapon in just your body.
This one is really dangerous, though. For a couple of ways. One of those being, okay, you have the ability to lift amazing, incredible weights.
Absolutely.
But as we've mentioned, when you burn metal,
that goes away.
If you run out, it goes away. So if you're holding 2 tons of whatever and you run out,
it falls back on you.
You are flat.
Now, pewter, if you have enough access to it, allows you to keep yourself going. It allows you to stay mentally alert, more aware. With Mistborn...
So it's basically an upper.
Yeah. With Mistborn, it's often necessary to pair pewter with tin. Pewter allows your body to basically take the intense, enhanced hits that you receive because of tin. Now, there's something called pewter dragging, and that's what I was saying, for keeping yourself going. And this allows you, with the enhanced balance and speed, to run on the ground as fast or faster than a horse at full gallop. And you can do that for hours if you have enough access to pewter. However, eventually you will come down from that.
This reminded me of the Wheel of Time, where an Aes Sedai can heal you of your tiredness. But remember, because you don't feel tired, you are still tired. And you could actually die from exhaustion without realizing you're even tired. That's what this pewter thing is like.
There is a minor exception to that, and that's that it is much like that, except that pewter does also enhance your healing capabilities. You heal faster and better when you can burn pewter.
But if you burn yourself up faster than the pewter can keep up, which is a pewter burn, you have to have some ready for when you stop burning it, so that you still can sustain.
It's something you have to get off of slowly. Or
pewter drag, not pewter burn, sorry.
Yes, you have to get off of it slowly, or you, like the runner who ended up being the source of the marathon, ran his heart out.
Yes. Now, if you think about how we've described pewter, you might already be putting the connection together. Some of these are like drugs. You can get addicted by using this too much and have actual problems just staying alive if you use them poorly.
Because as we learn, using them nonstop forever, especially in high amounts, flaring it constantly, can affect your actual body.
Yes.
But away from the body for a moment. Let's go to the mental ones.
Let's do
the other 4 basics. We've got bronze. This one's pretty simple. When you burn it, you can see allomancy being used.
What do they call people who can do this?
Seekers, because they can look out and seek out allomancers.
So normally you can't tell someone's using allomancy. There's nothing visible.
Nope.
If you see them flying through the air, you can probably tell.
See that. But notably with, say, pewter, you don't see an enhancement of their muscles. They just are stronger. Right. It's not their power. It's
They're not hulking out.
No.
They just suddenly can.
And so you can see little signs maybe if you're trained to look for it. But usually if someone's good at hiding it, you won't know.
But if they're burning bronze, there's like an aura they can see now.
Kind of. They describe it as pulsings that they hear.
Okay.
Which is always weird in my brain where I'm like, okay, seekers I often think of with sight, but they describe hearing pulses. And if you're really good at it, you can actually tell what those pulses mean to figure out what metal someone is burning.
But there is a way to negate this.
Yes. And that is by burning its partner metal. Copper. Copper produces a copper cloud, and so while that is one of the names for the people who burn this metal, other mistings are called smokers. basically throwing out a smoke screen for seekers. And this just dampens all those pulses. You don't see or hear those pulses, even if you're looking for it as a seeker.
So a copper cloud, someone who is a copper cloud, their only use, really, is if they're with other people who are using various different abilities and they want to shield that from anyone hidden. Finding it. And they're specifically wanting to hide it from somebody who's burning bronze. Because the other people can't tell.
No.
It's only a seeker who can tell.
It's a very specific use, but at least in the first of the 3 books, very necessary.
And if you are an important person or you have a lot of important stuff, you might choose to hire a seeker who can be on the watch for people who are allomancers trying to sneak in.
And notably, if you are Mistborn and have access to everything, no matter what you're doing, you can have a copper cloud up so that people don't see that you're doing it.
Ooh, you are always shielding your ability.
Now, this is not foolproof.
I was going to, speaking of that,
it is possible to pierce a copper cloud, though it's initially kind of thought of as, no, that's not possible. Very specific, powerful differences in ability can allow for one who is seeking to pierce a weaker copper cloud, and most notably we see this when it's involved with some of the other magic systems.
Now, this is where I have to contradict something I said earlier, and I'm not going to say it's something wrong with the magic system. It's something not well explained by Brandon Sanderson, that some people are stronger at some of these things than others.
Mostly, I disagree. It's mostly explained. There is one that is not very well explained, and it's more or less our main character.
But we had earlier said it just matters how much metal you have to burn.
Not even how much
but
you.
Some people
how much you
have a
how
capacity
long.
To burn more than others.
But how much you have is not you're burning more than someone else, so you're stronger. No. Or you have more metal, so you can be stronger. That just is the duration that you can burn for.
But
the strength comes from just what the metal is.
For people being able to pierce a copper mind, that's only those
copper
who are
cloud.
Copper cloud. Those are only those who are particularly strong enough to do it. So,
and we really only
see a conflict there.
Exceptions in specific cases that are kind of explained. I can't explain everything without being super spoilery.
Spoiler.
But loosely, these abilities for allomancy are genetic. And through many, many generations, it's been diluted and is weaker.
Yeah.
There is a character who gets it from the source and is ridiculously stronger.
Uber powered.
And we kind of see and learn the difference in power comes from how much is it diluted. The one that may not be entirely the case is one that is hinted maybe had some god-level interaction upon, like, birth.
Okay. We have 2 more mental ones.
Yes. And these are fun. They partner well together, so I'm actually going to list both of them at the same time. That's zinc and brass.
They are fun.
Although
they don't cause a lot of fun, necessarily.
No.
I mean, they can.
They affect people's emotions.
So they can cause fun.
They push or pull. Zinc pushes on emotions, making them higher, amping them up. And
that's any emotion.
Therefore, they're called rioters.
You can amp up the anger.
Or you could amp up the lust, peacefulness.
I mean, whatever you want.
You could make someone calm.
You can make someone really
by
horny.
Making that up. Yes, you could.
You could.
You seem very fixated on that.
I'm just saying. It's a thing. I think it's used at one point.
Well, it's used in more subtlety than that.
Emotion.
But it is used kind of like that. But the other one we see actually used more commonly is brass, which soothes people.
Calm them down.
But not necessarily.
Zen moments.
Not at all.
Okay.
Because it dampens down specific emotions, but this can be targeted in a way to get the effect of a rioter. If you dampen every emotion but one, then they still feel that one stronger. So if you dampen everything except the anger, they feel angrier. Not because you've pulled that up.
Sounds like that would take some skill.
Because you push the others. It does. Yeah. And with training, practice, you can get there, but largely it's just used for dampening someone and they're flat.
Now that covers all the base metals.
Yep.
Then we move into the higher metals.
And these are, I mean, truthfully, some of them a little more pointless. Or at least pointless if you are just a misting. If you're a Mistborn, some of them are useful to you, and some of them are just kind of there.
Now, again, some of the higher metals we don't learn in the first trilogy, so 4 of those we're not even going to talk about.
But we will talk about some of these. The first being gold.
And I want to say the ones we're going to talk about here, we learn more about them later. We learn just some basic things about them here in the first trilogy.
And we do learn more than I think we will actually say about some of these as well.
Some is inferred.
Yeah.
Yep.
So gold...
Gold falls under the category of temporal.
Is a temporal metal. It affects kind of time perception-ish. Basically, you look around and you see different versions of yourself. Things that would have been different. What would have happened if you had made different choices.
It's interesting. You burn gold and you can see what I would have been like if I'd done this, this, or this.
And a lot of the times, it causes serious emotional trauma. Either I could have been so much better if I had done that instead. Dang it, now I'm depressed. Or, oh goodness, that's so scarring to see. And
it's a weird metal.
Most people don't burn it.
No.
It's a gold that's available, but people don't do it.
But the person who is a misting, and that's the only thing they burn, wow, that sucks. But they're called a...
I think this is something we learn later, because I don't remember this.
Then,
it could just be I don't remember it.
Then let's just not say it.
Because they probably do say that one. Also,
I can't remember where.
I'll say the nicknames. That's fine. They would be an augur.
I have to admit, as I did some research for this, I couldn't remember with some of these, where did we learn it? When did we learn it? Because I've read all the books, so I was struggling a little.
Now, Gold's partner, that's the one that I'm positive the nickname doesn't come till later.
Okay, so we won't say the nickname at all.
But it's an alloy of gold called electrum. Electrum isn't really that useful on an individual level. It allows you to see your own future, but only you and only partially. It's more like a couple moments into the future, but you don't see what other people would do, just yourself. However,
it's not what you would do. It's what you will do.
Or I guess will, yes. It is specific and clear. But it's notably important because it counters another metal later on. And that's really the only time it gets used in this first trilogy. Yeah. Now we move off of the temporal metals that we know.
To enhancement metals.
Now,
these are great.
Funny that these are enhancement metals because in a way,
one of them doesn't enhance at all.
And the other, by enhancing, ruins things as well.
It does.
So both of these metals, if you only can burn this metal, it's completely useless.
Totally. If you're a Mistborn, there's use.
These two metals that we encounter in the enhancement category in this first trilogy are only usable for Mistborn. And that's aluminum for the first one.
Or aluminium if you are over in England.
And duralumin.
The United Kingdom.
For the second one.
Yes.
Now, they are partners because really they drain all of your resource of something. Aluminum drains all of your metal reserves, period. You burn it, and if you're powerless. Mistborn, all your metals that you had ingested, everything you were waiting to use for power is gone.
So if you suddenly needed to get rid of all your metal, aluminum. Take a pill. Bam!
Most notably, it's often used as a, hey, we have an Allomancer in captivity. Burn this, or we'll stab you. Because that way you're not a threat to us.
I suppose if you wanted to overpower someone and you slipped them a Mickey of aluminum and they didn't know it was aluminum, they thought it was something else.
There's a weird metal in here, let's burn it. Why not?
And boom.
It would have to be completely unknown, but they'd still have to choose to do it. It's not something you're probably going to do subtly.
Yeah, my notes came about that there are, as you said, no known aluminum mistings because you have to be able to burn other metals to burn aluminum.
Theoretically, if they existed, they could ingest aluminum and burn it and realize they're burning it, but there's no effect.
There's nothing happens. So yeah,
no,
they just like aluminum as a snack.
Now its partner, duralumin, it burns everything of what you are currently burning. Not all your resources, but whatever metals you have currently on, and does it all at once. And so suddenly, everything that you have of that metal is just rushing out in a more powerful burst of that kind.
Sort of.
That it's not the ones that you have in reserve, it's just the ones that are on. Now, similarly, there's no mistings, because it wouldn't matter.
That's right.
So neither of those get nicknames.
So that's all of the regular of the 16 metals we're going to talk about.
That's not 16, but it's all the ones we know.
Right, that was 12. We're going to move on to the 3 god metals.
Now, the first of these, it's simple. It does have alloys, but we don't have names for all of those. And I'm not sure we even learned the name of this in the series.
Yeah, we don't.
But it's called Lerasium. And this is a bead of metal that when you swallow it...
It's green.
It is. It's a good color. Favorite color of mine. It makes you a Mistborn. It makes you an initial Mistborn, and all of your children now will have the chance to genetically get these powers passed down to them.
Yeah, and this has been around for a while. I mean, this had to do with the original Mistborns. So, yeah, cool.
Now, one of the other god metals is something that we've hinted at a little bit before, and that's atium. Not ATM, like a automatic teller machine, but atium, the metal.
Although it has a lot of value, it is the most valuable metal in the world.
And in fact, it's largely because of its use to Mistborn. A Mistborn who burns atium, or...
Atium.
Sure, atium.
Either one.
Or a Misting who has access to it, though those don't seem to be very well known. They do exist.
I always thought this one was weird. Its power. But go ahead.
It allows you to see the future of others.
Just a few seconds into the future.
Or at least, usually.
Okay.
There is one exception to that we see. So ATM, you see a few seconds into the future and have the mental capacity to react to that. In a fight, that means you are basically unbeatable, because you can see the swings coming in and react to them perfectly. That's technically not going to make you unbeatable, but close to. And it will require some ridiculous just reaction trickery to beat someone if you don't have any. I said there was an exception to the few seconds, and that's at a point in the series, we see one person burn atium and duralumin at the same time. And they gain a certain level of transcendent omnipotence almost in that moment. They can see how things will happen or what needs to happen a little bit. But it's not something that you commonly could do very easily. Again, you would need to be a Mistborn to do it as well. The other alloy of atium is malatium. It's referred to as the 11th metal a lot of the time because when it's introduced, we think there's only 10 rather than the 16 plus that there actually are.
Right.
And it's thought to be a comparison with something else and isn't really, but you see the past versions of other people. Just like gold lets you see your past, Maladium allows you to see other people's past and what that would turn into.
Which ends up having a huge impact on the plot that we cannot talk about at all.
It really doesn't have a huge impact on exact things or that much in daily usefulness, but it does show some ridiculous knowledge reveals.
Yeah.
And now we get to a term that I mentioned with tin. We've seen an example, and that's an allomantic savant. This is an allomancer who flares, or at least is burning, their allomantic metal for a really ridiculous, stupid long amount of time.
We mentioned how there's some
nonstop.
similarities to drugs and how you can get addicted, how there's some impacts.
And one of those impacts is that it changes your body to be more in tune with it. You become essentially stronger at that thing or heightened. And we see a Tin Eye Savant in the series, and it gets way beyond what a normal Tin Eye could do. But there are the drawbacks. It's painful just to walk on normal ground.
He keeps his eyes covered
The eyes
all
are
the
covered,
time.
especially during sunlight hours, because the sun is too bright. He'd be blind. And so that's something of a trade-off. It's something that happens at times, but not super commonly. There are a few exceptions. Again, Seekers will do this sometimes. They'll just kind of always be having it on. And so they become savants without really realizing it, and it doesn't really negatively impact them.
Yeah.
Pewter savants happen, but it's not very common because that's when you run into things that you were talking about with pewter of overdoing something that your body then can't take, especially if you come off of it.
So that pretty much wraps up Allomancy, which is good because we've spent a lot of time. The other two magic systems, as you say, 3 magic systems,
we know less about.
Yeah, so there's just not as much to talk about. So that was good. So the second one, Furukami.
So Furukami is a different metal magic system that doesn't work the same. It's still genetic. You need to have these traits passed on down to you. But rather than burning metals and gaining the power from those metals, a Furukamist is able to store some of their various abilities in different metals and draw upon them later, giving it up for a time and getting it back
This one was brilliant. I loved Furukami.
And what I love most about it is that it is not limited in how quickly you use it in the same way that Allomancy typically is.
Yeah.
You can, instead of just enhancing your strength a little or to a certain extent, if you have enough stored, you can use it all at once and be ridiculously strong and actually Hulk out for like 10 seconds.
Yeah. This one just is so brilliant to have thought of, and I loved it from the get-go. So you mentioned strength. So someone who wants to be stronger at times simply decides to be an absolute weakling for a period of time. And the whole time that they're choosing to be ridiculously weak, their normal strength is being stored and multiplied. It's just stored up. And like you said, they decide how they use it. So then they could, for a lengthy period of time, be a little stronger. Or they could be the Incredible Hulk for 5 seconds.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
And sometimes these have uses even with their storing rather than their use of the actual stored abilities. And it's a lot more dependent on how smartly you can use your abilities.
But you're talking about their natural abilities, and they're storing them. So what does it have to do with metal?
They get stored in the metals, and what abilities or traits that you can store are stored in specific kinds of metal.
So if I want to store strength, I have to have a specific metal I'm using.
Yes.
Can a Furukamist do all of these, or only certain ones like a misting?
In this trilogy, a Furukamist can do all of them.
Cool. As long as they have the right metals.
Yes. And notably, only the Furukamist who stores something in their metals can access them.
Nobody else can steal it. It's
Even if
theirs still because it's their ability.
Exactly. Even if you are a Furukamist, you can't steal someone else's stored stuff.
Now, if I stored my strength in this metal object and someone stole the metal object, I don't have that strength anymore unless I get the metal object back.
Yeah.
But nobody else can take it out of the metal object.
No, it's just sitting in there dormant until I specifically come back and get it.
That makes sense. All right, so tell us a little bit about the specifics of the metals then. The different metals, what can you store?
So these metals all work the same metals that we saw with Allomancy, basically. There aren't really any new metals that are unheard of, and any that are, we don't know them yet.
That's right.
So we won't talk about them.
So iron.
It stores weight, specifically your gravitational weight. So if you're falling off a cliff, you can start putting your weight in iron and you fall like a feather.
Yay!
Or if you are someone's trying to push you and you don't want to move, you just make yourself super heavy.
Nice. What about steel?
It will enhance your physical speed. You spend a while just sitting down and laying down, not moving at all, and for short periods of time, you can be the Flash.
That depends, again, how long you laid still. Maybe you can do it longer.
Maybe. If you laid still for 10 years, you probably can be the Flash for at least, like, 1.
How about tin?
Tin stores senses, much like a tin eye's ability allowed them to enhance their senses. Now, this one is one that you really kind of train which choice are you putting better. You can choose your sight, or your hearing, or your touch, smell, taste. You don't have to do all 5 at once.
So, for example, you could go around for, like, almost all the time wearing glasses because your eyes are poor.
You just make them a little worse.
But normally your eyes are actually fine. You're wearing glasses because you're making them somewhat diminished so that on occasion you can make
take
them
their glasses
eagle
off
eye.
and eagle eye see.
Nice. How about pewter?
That's the one that stores strength. That's our Hulk machine.
Nice. Zinc?
This is going to store your mental speed, your ability to process information.
Okay.
You become a computer.
I can figure it out faster. Brass?
It stores warmth. I don't think we really see that done much yet.
Okay. What about copper?
That
I know
one
we see this.
is very, very important to the series.
Oh, yes.
This one stores memories. When they're inside copper, you cannot remember what it is. It literally, you learn something, you commit it to memory, and then you store it inside a copper mind. And all of these are called whatever metal minds for Furukamists. But with copper, you put those memories away, and when you want to, you can go into them and pull them out and suddenly remember them crystal clear. Just don't forget to put them back.
Yeah.
You will forget them once you've put them back, You'll have a general idea. You can make your notes off of it, but you won't remember it sharp as a memory anymore. But you never have to worry about forgetting what's in that metal mine because you can pull it back out.
Yeah,
it will degrade over time because the human brain, that little time it's in your brain, it won't process quite as well as it's stored in the metal. But while it's in the metal, it's good.
I can't help myself. This is really important in the series. Okay, sorry.
And really, it just would be really important and amazing to have access to.
Okay, let's talk about bronze.
That one stores your wakefulness. Like how pewter enhances your body, instead of enhancing your entire body with it, storing your wakefulness in bronze allows you to keep going just by being awake.
Great one for when you're on guard duty.
But you do have to spend an equal amount, not necessarily time, but equal amount, sleeping.
Yep. Can you just intentionally store your wakefulness while you're sleeping?
Yes and no.
I don't know that you could.
It's more like dropping into a coma.
You know.
It's more like dropping into a coma than sleeping.
How about gold?
Gold stores up health. This is, again, potentially hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
There are feruchemists who suffer grievous wounds that should kill them and tap into their stored health and heal like that, Wolverine style. And it is by far one of the most useful to store. However, you do have to spend a decent amount of time
going around
a
being sickly
person.
You got this constant sniffles.
There is a balance there.
How about Electrum? Do we see Electrum?
I don't think we see it used.
It's one that we
listed,
did have
but I don't know if I've seen it used.
Allomancy, so I don't remember. But Electrum would have a certain ability then.
Yes, it would store, can I say?
Sure.
It would store determination. Exactly what that means, I don't know yet, but I imagine I'll find out when I read the later books.
You, by using it, would become very determined.
Probably.
Yeah.
Aluminum, I think we see, but we don't realize that we're necessarily seeing all the time. Or at least we do see later.
And Duralumin was the other metal from Allomancy. Do we see anything with that one?
I think both of those, we don't really see them too much, but a feruchemist can store identity in aluminum and connection in duralumin.
No, you said feruchemist. I swear it's a feruchemist.
You know, you're probably right. But Zach, being a previous chem major, can't look at it and not see chem.
And, you know, fantasy, you pronounce it how you want, and if you're going to do it wrong, do it strong.
The last of these metals is not one of the basic metals that we've talked about.
No, it's a god metal.
But it does have feruchemical properties.
It does. Atium.
And that stores age.
Which becomes huge in the story.
Mm-hmm. With proper usage and whatever, you could at least make yourself appear and be younger for a time. You have to be older to do it. And now we get into the real fun crux of this. And that's the occasional person. It is extremely rare.
Yep.
But who has access to both allomantic abilities and feruchemical. You can store things in a metal and then burn that metal through your allomancy. And you gain the benefits that you would with allomancy, but you also are burning through what you stored and get that, but enhanced.
It's a way to really give yourself a power upgrade.
So while you might be really old because you've been aging, if you have the ability to just store some age and then burn it, you gain extra off of that and subtract years from your life, thus allowing you to potentially live forever.
Obviously, that's a very rare case.
Now, you also get an extra benefit in that in feruchemy, things actually happen. When you Hulk out, your muscles actually get bigger. In allomancy, they don't. But feruchemy allows for higher bursts of things at times. So if you had stored, say, strength in a pewter mine, and then you burn that pewter, you are ridiculously strong, but you don't look it.
So Sanderson does some great things with the blending between these two. I don't think we'll spend more time talking about these, but just know there's these two different systems, allomancy and feruchemy, and when they blend together, they make crazy stuff awesome. Happens, man. Yeah.
But now we get to the final of the three systems.
Hemalurgy.
Which, I'm just going to say
it. Dark and
it's the bad one.
Scary one, man.
Like, it has good uses, potentially.
Oh, very powerful uses.
But it is bad.
It's sketch.
Just put it bluntly, it steals something from one individual and puts it into another.
Using metal, because that's a metal-based magic.
To do that, you have to drive the metal that you are using, referred to as a spike, usually it is a spike of some sort, through one person's heart, killing them, and then take whatever you took from them based on the metals of the spike to put into someone else. And then it gets even more complicated. We get explained to us that there are something like 258 different places that you could put a spike into a body and get a different type of effect.
Now, the spike that's coming into the person who's getting the effect.
Yes, not the one that gets stolen. The one it's stolen from, it has to be through their heart. But if it goes into your body in some other way or just slightly off, you get a slightly different effect that could be massive. But we don't really have it explained to us. We get told that you would need to really have like transcendent knowledge to be able to do that well.
What again is really disturbing is when you drive this metal spike through a person, it immediately starts to degrade. So to get the most bang from your buck, you have to be right up next to the person who is being killed with a spike. So as it drives through them, it goes right into you. It's like, ooh. But if you can do that, woo, you get pretty much all their power.
So we're just pretending that bloodborne diseases aren't a thing here.
So we've got, again, these same basic metals, but now with some different abilities because of if it's done hemalurgically.
Yeah, and so I'm going to run through here. There's really 3 sources that these can come from, and that could be a normal person, someone with allomantic abilities, and someone with ferrochemical abilities. What gets stolen is based on the metal of the spike, and we're just going to quick run through these.
So, iron.
Steals a normal human strength.
Just regular, normal human strength. Bam. I got your strength. Haha. How about steel?
That will take allomantic physical powers. So those enhancing the senses and those first 4 that we really talked about.
You can steal all 4 of those types of abilities by using steel spike through someone.
They had access to it.
Right.
They need to. So if you did it through a Mistborn, you get all 4. If you do it through a Misting, you only get the one they have.
Got it. Tin.
That will steal human senses.
But pewter.
That one steals the ferrochemical physical powers.
Those ferrochemical. I think
that's
you're
why I
right.
say ferrochemical on that one. It's just a mouthful to try and say ferrochemical.
I think you're right that time.
But all
These
those
are very
storing
complex.
things get stored in there.
And I'm like, how did Sanderson think of all of this, man? It makes my brain hurt just studying these.
It fits right into my like DM designing brain. I love it.
I wonder if Sanderson plays D&D.
I don't know. Maybe we should ask.
Invite him to your game.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Yeah, you never hear from him. Not so
fun.
fun.
I won't hear from him. But hey, if you're out there and you have a personal connection to Brandon Sanderson, let him know I'm inviting him to come play D&D sometime.
All right, we've got more metals. How about brass?
That steals ferrochemical cognitive abilities.
But zinc?
That one just is stealing from humans your emotional fortitude.
Copper?
That one will steal again from humans, but their mental fortitude. Also, then, memory and intelligence.
You can steal their memories. Ooh.
I don't actually know if it allows you to steal
their
specifically their memories.
To remember?
That might be it, that you get better memory from it.
How about bronze?
That steals allomantic mental powers, the other 4.
Now, aluminum is crazy.
Yeah, you put an aluminum spike in someone and it removes all of their powers. So if they're Mistborn, no, they're not. What? That's crazy.
Why would you do that? Well, because you're evil and want to destroy someone.
Well, and because it's a lot easier than saying, hey, burn this.
Yeah. Duralumin?
That one steals connection and identity. I don't think we've seen it really.
Okay. How about atium?
Atium allows you to steal all
everything of value
of the powers of everything. You kill a Mistborn, you kill a ferrochemist, from either of those, you get all of the access. Everything. It's what you want to use, if you can.
And that's probably enough of those metals to talk about. There's a few more in there, but that's good enough.
Truthfully, the other important thing about hemalurgy is that when combined with allomancy, it can make things more powerful. That's not to say that just straight stealing someone's allomantic ability makes it stronger. That actually does make it weaker. However, if you put a stolen ability into someone who already has that ability is increased. And so you get things like people who can pierce copper clouds.
Yep. They're uber powered. And that's basically what this is all about. They can do these things now at levels that no one else can touch.
And truthfully, if you were to do enough of, say, iron spikes into someone, theoretically, they could actually affect the metals in your stomach.
Yep. Rip it right out of you. That sounds bad.
It is.
That's why hemalurgy is the evil power. Don't do it.
There's one other thing that is really important about hemalurgy that we haven't talked about that I'm just going to cover for just a brief second. We won't go too deep. And that's that when used appropriately, it can actually create different species, if you will. There are multiple species through the series beyond humans that are created through the use of hemalurgy.
Is it really good that they're created, though, in the first place?
It's probably not good.
I would challenge that.
But it comes in use at times, and it is an important thing that hemalurgy can do. Now, what exactly those creatures and kinds will, we won't go too much into, spoilage. Or why, but it's a thing that happens.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up the magic system of Mistborn. It is definitely more complex than anything we had touched in the first two magic systems.
It requires more explanation, but it is explanation that we do have and
we've gone well over an hour just talking about this.
Part of this also might be because I just finished reading it, so it's all really fresh for me.
So you're still giddy and excited about it, but
it's fresh for me.
It's deep.
It is. So as we look to how we rate it, we'll keep that in mind.
Yep, I've got to get ready here now to make some notes on what our scores will be. Consistency of definition. This is the degree of clarity defined.
No.
Oh, sorry. The degree of clearly defined rules that are consistently followed.
Specifically, are the rules that are defined followed?
Yep.
5.
Are you gonna just go there, huh? Just 5, definitely.
I'm just saying it.
These are set in stone all the time.
I mean, we said it ourselves, and you said it at the beginning when we talk about Sanderson. He makes these magic systems, and if he doesn't seem to follow the rule, it's because he hasn't revealed something to us yet. And then we see it, and we go, oh yeah, that is the same thing going on all the time. And sometimes we can look back to things that were a little confusing and go, that makes complete sense. But it doesn't look like an afterthought. It looks intentional.
Yeah, I really can't argue with you. I do agree. It's a 5. How about clarity? How well is the magic system revealed to the reader?
I'm torn on giving him this a 4 or a 5 because I think it is very clear, but I do believe it's intentionally rolled out slowly over time. You get good reveals, and I really enjoy that, but it does mean we don't always know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's a solid 4 because to understand it at a deep enough level, you have to really geek out like we did.
And let's be honest here, one of the specific aspects of, say, hemalurgy tells us that we won't understand it. We wouldn't be good at it.
One of the unique things about Brandon Sanderson as an author is that he publishes his notes, his annotations, the things he was thinking about of why and how of all these things. And you can find them. They're online. They're available. But just reading the book, you don't get all of that.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to go that extra level and find and read those things. So that's where it becomes a 5.
And so just about everything that I was saying was stuff that I just know, but I have done a little bit of that reading and looking, and that really comes into play on, say, hemalurgy and Furukami. Allomancy, we know. The others, we need help.
How about power? Just how strong is this magic?
If we're talking all of these combined, sometimes ridiculously strong. I mean,
I can't put 6. I can't. But I think it's a 5. It's a solid 5. Come on.
I think so too. And
I mean,
some
godlike powers are claimed through these.
Yes. Some of it can be done subtly and be more powerful for that. But yeah, it deserves it.
How much does magic impact the world and the story being shared? This is the impact score.
This is the one that I can't give too much away by saying this, because in the first book, I don't think you necessarily realize this, but as you keep reading, it's definitely a 5.
Oh yeah, the whole world, everything's being impacted by this. Totally. You just don't know it right away.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then we get to practical value. What good does the magic system do in the world?
Of the people who can use it, it's fantastic. It's not super common. But as things continue to go on, I'd say just a Coppermind in and of itself gives this a ridiculously high score.
I'd say every frickin' person in the world is impacted by this magic system. So it has a lot of practical value to the ones who will.
Well, if we go that deep, if we go to the deepness of when you finish the whole series, everyone would be dead without this.
It's a 5. It's a 5. This is uncanny. Okay, means of usage. What does it take of a person to use this magic?
So Ferukemi is very interesting and good.
Ferukemi?
Ferukemi is very...
Only one time did he mess up like that. That's
I've done it
good.
a couple times here and there, but not too much. It's very interesting and good, but it does require that drawback. I'd say it's like a 3 or 4 somewhere in there, because you have to spend time not. Allomancy, easy 5. It's very easy to use if you have access to it. Hemalurgy requires you to kill someone by driving it through their heart.
But, if you can, it's pretty easy then.
And then is ridiculously hard to place in the right position to actually give a benefit. So I don't want to give this a 5 because there are some drawbacks of things, but I would say it's fair to put it at like a 4-ish.
I will agree with you. So this has the crazy high score then of
23.
No,
it's out of 30.
28.
It's out of 30, so
28 out of 30.
I thought it was out of 25.
The highest we've had before was a 26, and we weren't sure we'd see anything higher than that. 28.
After reading Mistborn, I felt good.
And it could have been 29 if we'd been willing to give a 6 to power.
When it comes down to it, Mistborn has introduced me to one of my favorite magic systems out there. Thank you, Brandon Sanderson.
We are on the record that we want to see this come to the silver screen at some point.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it will. In some way, somehow, it's going to happen. Mistborn needs to be there.
After all, 28 coins deserves it.
There you go. I don't know what that meant, but...
We're rating it out of coins.
Oh, 28 coins. Gotcha. I was like, is that something from the book?
That's something from us.
I'll just fake it and smile, and then I admitted, no, I don't know what you mean. And then you explained it. Thank you very much. I get it now. All right. I think we've covered everything for this one then.
I think so.
Yeah, this was delightful.
It's been a lot of information heavy, but I enjoyed getting to do it and geek out on this.
And we're kind of revisiting the world as we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as usual, if you are not totally overwhelmed by everything we just poured out on you, you should subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. And please tell your friends and tell the whole world by giving us a rating and review us on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to our content.
And if we got anything wrong, especially...
Which happens.
Wrong about things that I, only having read the first trilogy, should have known better.
Yeah.
Contact us. Let us know and we'll correct it.
We'll even give you credit if you give us your name.
So contact us through email. That's FantasyForTheAges@gmail.com. Or our social medias. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
You really should say Twitter first, because that's where we're really lively. Facebook is like almost an afterthought these days, but I try.
Of social medias, Twitter's the best to reach. Yeah. But if you want to be able to reach us directly, there is another way that is not exactly social media.
A very interactive way.
And that's Discord, where you can just come and join the chat.
Mm-hmm. And again, Discord. I first got on it because I listened to a podcast that said, we have a Discord server. Come check us out. So I did. And wow, it was fun.
So now we're the podcast saying, come check us out.
We're fun. And one last way you can connect with us is to join our Patreon. Become one of the patrons of Fantasy for the Ages. That involves giving us just a little monetary support every month. It can be as little as $1. It can be as much as 1,000. Whatever works for you, we're good.
I don't think it could be 1,000.
Oh, we'd find a way. I'd make a new level. Just
contact
direct
us
message
if you
me,
need
and
us
I will
to
create.
Add 1,000.
It'll be the frickin' are you kidding level, but I will make it for you. And that's just something that helps us, be able to continue to afford to do this hobby that it consumes our time, and we're good with that. We love doing it. We're having a lot of fun. But there's hosting fees, there's microphone costs that we're still paying off, and such. And honestly, if we get a little money for this, I can justify it to my wife a little better. Zach can justify it to his girlfriend. So help us out if you're willing. If not, we'll still keep doing it. And I feel like I'm telling them don't send us any money by saying that, but I'm being honest. We're loving it. We'll keep doing it.
And if you love it and you want to support it, that's a way that you can and even gain some benefits from it.
That's right. We throw some extra things there. We've got some Patreon-only content. You have an opportunity to join us live during some of our recordings, many of our recordings, and just you become a deeper member of Fantasy for the Ages. So, gracias. De nada.
No,
that's what they'd say to me then, right?
Yeah. My dad doesn't know Spanish. It's
no,
fine.
No, I'm faking it. But, danke. I do know a little German.
And bisschen.
I was trying to think of a guy who was short and was German. now, so I can know a little German. Okay, we need to stop this. It's getting bad.
My dad's had too much wine.
Well, I have moved on.
Switched from white to red.
Yeah, this is, what am I drinking now? It's
I don't
red.
know.
I forget what it is.
It doesn't look super red.
I think it's a Sangiovese.
That explains it.
It's nice and tasty. All right.
Anyway.
It's been good spending time with y'all. It's been good spending time with you again, Zach.
It's always a nice time.
You feeling a little less hungover now?
A little bit.
Yeah. Time helps. We all know. Time heals all wounds. All right. Until next time, we'll talk to you next time.